Hello, everybody. Welcome to the GM Sports Report, your weekly podcast on all things sports where every play counts. I'm Grant, and I'm here with my co-host Mason as we get ready to cover the latest news, headlines, and upcoming events going on in the sports world. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to see all things GM Sports Report. Mason, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Grant. How are you?
Doing good, man. Yeah, you just got back from a trip to New York. You want to tell everybody how it was real quick?
I think it was Friday in the morning. I went to New York. My cousin and my uncle, my brother and I, we all went to the Shamrock series for the Notre Dame versus Army, where Notre Dame killed Army. It was a fun experience. It was just cool to kind of see the college football game being played at Yankee Stadium. So, it was cool overall.
Sounds like a good time. Glad you got to experience that.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, so like we do every episode, let's just start right away with our hot takes of the week. So Mason, what's your hot take this week?
So I think kind of that now that it's marinated a little bit more, I think I don't know if it's too much of a hot take, but after the 49ers losing to the Packers, it's safe to say that Brock Purdy is a lot more than just a system quarterback. Yeah, they have great weapons over there on the Niners, and I'm going back against what I was saying personally to you. What was it, a couple months ago, saying where even Daniel Jones could succeed in a situation like that, which is completely false.
Oh, it's music to my
Brandon
ears.
Allen. I know. Brandon Allen went 17 for 29, 199 yards, touchdown and an interception. And the rest of the offense was just as mediocre. They couldn't even get the run game going with McCaffrey. Jordan Mason had a little bit of a couple good plays, but Kittle was the main guy with 80 yards and a touchdown. So, yeah, that's my hot take of the week.
That just makes me so happy to hear
I
because
know.
we had a
Oh
very
my gosh.
heated debate on a PlayStation party one night about this topic. I was saying that Brock Purdy is more than a system QB. Obviously, you were on the other end. I'm not going to go into details and expose the crazy statements you were saying because I got respect for you. But
I
I'm
know. I
glad
know.
that you can admit when you're wrong and admit when I'm right. So thank
Right.
you. That just was
Right.
music to my ears right
Yep.
there. Good hot take.
I knew
Great
you'd
hot
like
take.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a hot take that you're not gonna like.
Mm.
Um, my hot take of the week is that drafting a QB does not solve the Giants' problems. There's still problems with the O line. You guys still need some DBs. And I think that you potentially need to have a conversation about cleaning house as far as coaches and GMs and all that stuff. I think mainly there needs to be a culture shift from the outside looking in. It looks like a very bad culture in that locker room right now. And I think that's something that really needs to be fixed if you do draft the QB. On top of drafting a QB, you still need to fix that culture that's going on, or else it's just going to be on repeat every single time. But yeah, that's my hot take of
Yeah.
the week.
No, that's good. I completely agree. Uh, I know a couple weeks ago I said Giants are just a quarterback away, but after things have been unfolding, we've been more exposed as a football team, and it's just DBs have been horrendous. O line, we need a lot more depth in O line because we have good guys, to start the season off with, but then it just
Right.
injuries started coming in and just got bad. I was saying to Max the other night, my brother, that we need another solid linebacker, and Dable, head coach, lost the locker room after getting rid of Daniel Jones. I know it was best for both
Mhm.
parties, financially and stuff. Daniel wanted to get ready and maybe be on a different team for the rest of the season, but the players were not happy about it. Everyone was on Daniel's side, and right now, I'm sure we all seen the clips of like Dexter Lawrence and Malik Neighbors saying, "Oh, I don't know what you want us to do. There's nothing we can do being down 30-0, and I'm
Right.
not in the game." So it's just it's gotten a lot worse. I kind of wish we could have just simmed to the rest of the season. But yeah,
That's almost what it seems like the feeling in the locker room is these players are just
I
like, I
know,
just want this season to be over at this point. It's kind of like the
pretty
vibe I'm
much.
getting from them. Malik Neighbors looked
hmm
so disinterested in that post game, which rightfully
I
so. And
know.
I think
You can't blame them.
I think that things will turn around going into this offseason, especially with the draft. If you draft a good quarterback, that'll boost the morale. I do think that there's like some sunshine here at the end of the storm, so to speak. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see.
it's very interesting.
All right. So now another thing we like to do is point out an underdog of the week. This is where we just shout someone out that doesn't get talked about a lot. So Mason, who's your underdog this week?
So this one's for our boy Matt. Cooper Rush had a great game. It went 24 for 32, 247 yards and 2 touchdowns against what was it, Washington.
Yep.
I don't think anyone expected Dallas in the state that they're in to beat Washington, and for them to come out and beat a team like them, it's great, a morale boost for these guys. So yeah, I mean, I think he's rightfully deserving for underdog of the week.
Yeah, it's a good one. And like you said, Matt's going to be very happy to hear that.
Hmm.
My underdog of the week, I kind of went with two guys. Yeah, this is a biased pick, but I went with Jalen Waddle and Jonnu Smith. Um,
Mm,
Jalen Waddle this season, he has not been his normal self, safe to say. Like
right.
a lot of people were saying going into this week, like, where's Jalen Waddle been? Is Jalen Waddle already washed and all that stuff? He came out and had a really good game against the Patriots, 8 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. Just really looked dominant, back to his old self. And Jonnu Smith, when the Dolphins signed him during the offseason last year, I was like, we needed a tight end, but I don't know how much of an impact a guy
Yeah.
like Jonnu Smith will have. He's older, he's kind of past his prime. These last couple weeks, he's been Tua's like favorite target on offense, and he's looked really good. This last week, he had 9 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. But in these last 2 weeks, he's had 3 touchdowns, which is very impressive, and he looks very good. So yeah, I was shocked by that, and I think not a lot of people know that. So as far as underdog of the week goes, I wanted to shout out Jonnu Smith and Jalen Waddle this week.
Nice. So would you be willing to say that okay, so who would you take if you had the chance to get Mike Gesicki or Johnny Smith back on the team?
Hmm. That's a tough one because
I know, cuz
I was
Gesicki.
really high on Gesicki. I really was, and I
Mhm.
always said that I don't think Mike McDaniel knew how to utilize him. But now
Mhm.
I feel like Mike McDaniel's done a better job of using a tight end. So I feel like with the offense, like the offensive changes we've been making, a guy like Gesicki would thrive here. But I think
Got it.
from the recency bias, I'm going to pick Jonnu Smith just because I've loved what he's done. And I will say this: Jonnu Smith is a much better blocker in the run game.
Oh, okay.
So
And
that's something
that's
that I also
half of
take
the
into
yeah,
consideration. Yeah. So I think I'd
nice.
pick Jonnu Smith. But that's a great question because I'm very high on
Mm.
Jaceki.
Yeah, I knew you were.
Yeah. All right, so let's just slide straight into the NFL now. Going with our game prediction update. This is where on Instagram and TikTok at GM Sports Report, we post every single game and we give our predictions every single week. This past week, you beat me. You were 10-3, and I was 9-4. That catches
Wow.
you a game closer. Our all-time records
Yeah.
now, mine is 120-59, and yours is 115-64. So you're 5 games back. You were 6 games back last week, but like I
Okay.
said, you just caught a game up. So slowly but surely, you're making
All
your
right.
way back.
We'll get there. Yep. Mm.
Yep. Yeah. Now I want to talk about probably the biggest headline that had happened last week. Didn't really get to talk about on last week's episode. That being Daniel Jones being released. I just kind of want to know, your thoughts on it. You're a Giants fan, so I just want to, let you rant about it for a little bit, since we didn't get to talk about it last week.
All right. So seeing the whole situation and stuff on social media days before he got released, him, jokingly playing safety on practice squad defense, like for the offense, and him being quarterback 4, it's like, yeah, you bench the guy, but what like right mind do you have putting him down a quarterback 4 like this? Yeah, he's been horrible for us, but he did win a playoff game for us, and have some kind of decency for the guy, and
Right.
make him like quarterback 2 or something. And not only that, it's like we signed Drew Lock to be the quarterback 2, and for him to not even get like the nod after Daniel Jones being benched, and that's his whole reason being there. I have no idea what's going on as far as, our mindset with the GMs and our coaches' decisions. You know, but Daniel Jones did ask to be released, which is completely understandable on all ends. But at the end of the day, it lost the locker room, and that's where things can start getting hectic. We do have 6 weeks left of the regular season, and it can only get worse from here. I don't see how
Right.
things can like even get close to being better. So yeah, I mean we'll see how it plays out, but I think that there's a lot of toxicity going around the Giants organization with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. Both ends of that contract were not held in place, and that hurts us Giants fans being like, well, what the heck are we doing?
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. Yeah, what's your take on it?
I mean, I 100% agree with you. Coming from a non-Giants fan, I think I have a question for you, and I think that question is: do
Yeah.
you think that Daniel Jones' career is just over, or do you think he can be a good backup quarterback somewhere?
So I was saying to my brother, that I hope it's kind of something like the Sam Darnold thing with the Jets, where
Right.
he might bounce around for a little bit, but I think he will gain traction somewhere because he has potential to be a good quarterback. It's just all in his head, in my
Mhm.
opinion. And the New York environment of sports, it's tough. And after that Week 1 loss against the Vikings, everyone's criticizing the guy for getting absolutely killed, and it's like there's not much support, for the guy. So I hope he does land somewhere that he has a great opportunity at.
Look, I know a team in Miami that could use a backup quarterback. That's all I'm gonna say.
There you go.
Yeah. Now slide it, man. This is just gonna be a painful couple of
I
topics here
know,
for
I
you.
know, I know.
Saquon Barkley has been the best running back in football, the best offensive player in football, in my opinion. Which is leading to this discussion going on right now. Is Saquon Barkley a legit MVP candidate? Can you see him win an MVP?
So, I remember, I think it was when we went to the Giants Philly game, I kind of just got rid of my hate for him just because was starting to see how bad the Giants, organization was as far as toxicity. So I'm
Mhm.
not as bad on the guy, but if he can break the single season rushing record, which he is on pace to do, which is 2,100 yards, I think he will win MVP. Now, the other guy that would win it is Lamar. So it's really just figuring out. It's a tight race in my opinion. So if he can break the rushing record, then I think he will win MVP.
Yeah. I agree with you. He's been off to an insane start. I think he already beat last game his personal best season in rushing yards. If I'm not mistaken, I
Yeah.
think I saw something about that, which is just crazy because he's only played 11 games this season because they had a bye week already, and he's looked amazing. And then you take the aspect of if the Eagles didn't do the tush push, how many extra
Oh my
touchdowns would
gosh.
Saquon Barkley have right now? I mean, he'd be leading the league by far right now in touchdowns.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that he definitely should be in that MVP conversation right now because he does look like the most valuable player right now.
Yeah. He
So
does.
yeah, I agree with you, and especially if he beats that record, which, like you said, he is on pace for. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the future. But yeah, I think he's been phenomenal this year.
Yeah. And to add on to kind of his personal record, he also broke the franchise record rushing in a game.
Mm,
So that's just another thing. 255 yards, 300
yeah,
all-purpose yards.
yeah, it's just
It's
a insane,
ridiculous.
insane game. Yeah, 270 yard, 270 yard touchdowns too, just crazy. Um, Another thing we like to do for the NFL is just give our three takeaways from the previous week. So, Mason, go ahead and give us your three takeaways.
All right, so my first one, you're gonna like saying that you're right about. Texans need to kind of figure it out, especially CJ Stroud. I know he's kind of been off these past few weeks, but 20 for 33, 247 yards, two touchdowns, and two interceptions doesn't win you football games. And not being able to establish the run game against the Tennessee Titans, it's concerning. And honestly, it makes people kind of raise an eyebrow. It's like, well, how are these guys going to be able to compete in the playoffs if they can't really get the job done against the Titans? Now, I don't know if they played them already, but if they have not, they do get to play them again to division game. So, um, And also, Daniil Hunter had a great game with 6 tackles and 3 sacks, but it was not enough to get the job done. So, yeah, that's my first takeaway. And my second takeaway is the Vikings, Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson had great games. Addison going for 162 yards on 8 catches with a touchdown, and Hawkinson had 114 yards on 7 catches. Just
Mm,
phenomenal. I saw something where Justin Jefferson was saying, like, if these guys can get the job done and put up numbers like that, then I'm fine where I'm at. So that's just great, team leadership right there.
right.
And the Steelers, we've been high on them all season. Russell Wilson had a great game despite losing to the Browns. I know that was a big upset for pretty much everybody. Um, but man, it was a crazy snowstorm that they had to play through. He went 21 for 28, 270, and a touchdown. So I don't know how guys can play in kind of storms like that. I couldn't even see the ball when they were kicking it through
I
the
know.
uprights. It's ridiculous. But yeah, those are my 3 takeaways.
Man, I like all three of those. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with all of them. My first takeaway is that we were kind of just handing the rookie of the year to Jaden Daniels, but
Mhm.
Bo Nix, he's starting to come into that conversation, and he's actually starting
Yep.
to pass up on Jaden McDaniels here. I'm just gonna read you their stats, passing stats. I'm not gonna get into Russian or anything like that.
Yeah.
Bo Nix has 2,548 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And Jaden Daniels has 2,613 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So they're really close to each other when you look at the stats.
Yeah.
Um, Bo Nix has looked incredible. I said this last week. He gets more and more comfortable each week, and it'll be interesting now that there's like a worthy competitor going
Yeah.
against Jaden Daniels to see that race now, because for the first half of the season we were all kind of like, oh, it's going to be Jaden Daniels who wins offensive rookie of the year and all that stuff. And but now there's like a legit race going on, so it's going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
how that plays out. That's my first takeaway. My second takeaway, bringing the bias back in a little bit, is that the Dolphins season is not over yet. I just want to shout out Tua.
Mm.
He's looked incredible these last few weeks since coming back from injury. A lot of people are like, oh, he should retire. But man, these last 2 weeks, he's thrown for 605 yards, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 128.5 pass rating. Also 2-0 in that span. But look, it's not over. If if they can keep stringing wins together, they can find themselves in a wild card. Okay, it's not
Mm.
impossible. I've seen crazier things happen. I think you and me were talking about it. This Thanksgiving game coming up against the Green Bay
Yeah.
Packers, that's going to be the game that decides it. I think if
It
they can win
will.
that
It will.
game, I'm all the way back in. Let's just put it that way. If
Okay.
they lose,
Okay.
if they lose, I'm going to accept the season as a loss. But I think this game is
Well,
huge coming up on Thursday.
I'm happy that you're able to have hope, unlike my situation. So I'm happy about
I
that.
wasn't gonna do it. I wasn't gonna be hopeful, but I'm like, you
No,
know
I
what?
completely get it. I get
Yeah,
it.
might as well. It's the season of happiness we're coming into
Right.
here, so let me be happy a little bit. Um, my number three takeaway is that the 49ers playoff hopes are starting to get very slim. I saw a post
Very
on
much
House of
so.
Highlights saying they have a 18% chance to make the playoffs now.
Wow.
5-6 record. They just got blown out by Green Bay. So not looking good. They've dealt with a
Ugly.
lot of injuries though. So
Mhm.
like the people that are saying like, now I do have a question for you because this is a big talking point. Do you think that
Yeah.
Shanahan should be on the hot seat right now?
I think he should. I think he should. This whole season should have been a test, and I don't think we're hearing enough about it because the amount of
Mm,
times he's come so close and just couldn't get the job done. It's one of those things where it's like Aaron Boone for me. We get
right.
so close to winning it all, and then it's just like, well, there goes our chances again. Have to restart all over. So I think he should, and I think this should have been the season to test it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. For whatever reason, he never gets brought up as far as like coaches that
Never.
are on the hot seat. I'm not really sure why. He's like you said, he's kind of
I have
like
no
the Aaron
idea.
Boone of the NFL.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like he should 100% be on the hot seat because even though your team has had as many injuries as it had, it's still more talented than most of the teams you're going up against and losing to. So, yeah, I think that they've had a very upsetting season so far. It'll be interesting to see if they can turn it around or if they're not going to make it anywhere. We'll see. But yeah, I
Yep.
think that's an interesting topic as far as the Shanahan situation goes. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the NFL's topic. So now we're going to slide over to the NBA, and what we like to do for that is point out our NBA Player of the Week. So Mason, go ahead.
All right, so you got your little bias in. I'm gonna get my little bias in. I gotta go with an OG Anunoby. For us, he's just been phenomenal, and I know everyone's like, "Oh, is he worth the 212 million or whatever?" Yes, he absolutely is. And a team like us, where we only play starters, he is the guy that I want on the court at all times. If he's gonna play
Right.
40 minutes, might as well make the most of it.
Yeah.
Last 5 games, he went 25 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and about 3 steals per game. So he's been looking phenomenal and dropped 40 on Denver last night in a Knicks blowout, 145 to 118. So it's just, he's been one of those guys where you could just rely on him through and through. And yeah, he's my player of the week.
Yeah, he's been very impressive. And I do think that I've been saying this for a couple years now. OG Anunoby is like that guy that if everyone in the NBA had to pick like a role player they wanted on their team, I bet
Mm-hmm.
29 out of the 30 teams would pick OG Anunoby to be that guy because you got the
Yep.
length, you got the defense, you got the shooting, the conditioning. He's got the whole
Yep.
package. So yeah, I agree with
Yep.
that. My player of the week, I'm gonna go with LaMelo Ball. This dude has been
Mm.
insane. The last 5 games, he's averaged 31 points per game, 5 rebounds, 8 assists. And I don't know if you've been watching his highlights or any of his game. The
I
shots he's
have.
taken is like
It's
stuff you
insane.
do in a pickup basketball game. I'm talking like spin moves into a one-legged three, uh, half court heaves. Like it's crazy the stuff he's pulling out of the hat. It's so fun to watch him develop. He's so flashy. He gives me like the vibes of like a Jason Williams that can score, if that makes any sense. Like
Yeah.
as far as like the
Yep.
smoothness of everything. So yeah, I had to shout him out. And then I also want to shout out a player. I know. I always pick more than one player, but I wanted to shout out a guy that hasn't been in the NBA for like 3 years now. And he was a great role player back in his day, but that was like 8 years ago. And this man goes by the name of Elfrid Payton. The Pelicans have been dealing with so much injuries right now that they had to sign him onto a 10-day contract. And he went right into that starting lineup. And last night, he had 14.7 rebounds. But here's the crazy thing, he had 21 assists last night,
Holy
which is just
crap.
insane for not playing in 3 years. With a new offense that you never even played for, you're on a 10-day contract and you go out there and you get 21 assists. That's just worth being shouted out, if you ask me. I used to watch Elfrid Payton actually back in the day. He was on the Orlando Magic, and I remembered him and Victor Oladipo were the starting point guard, shooting guard. So it brought back some memories seeing him ball out. I'm glad
Yeah.
he got another little chance there. But 21 assists, that's just crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah. All right, now we're gonna slide into our team of the week. So Mason, who's your NBA team of the week?
So you were just kind of talking about them. I'm gonna go with the Orlando Magic. They
Ooh.
won 9 of their last 10 games, and I feel like no one's really been kind of talking about them, at least on social media, from what I've seen. And they've got a solid group of guys. I know I kind of talked about them a little bit, a couple of episodes ago, but right now they're third in the East in a tight, division, so or a tough conference. So, um, it's just it's cool to see how like the hometown team kind of gets all the love and is kind of making the most out of it.
Yeah. Um, it always pains me to talk about the Orlando Magic
I
because the
know.
whole Florida rivalry. So I'm not gonna really comment too much on that. I'm not as
That's
far.
fine.
I'm not gonna go as far to say they're the best team at 40 yet. So I'm just gonna leave that there. Now my team of the week is the other Florida team, the
Oh
Miami
my
Heat.
gosh.
You look at their main record, it's 7-7, so it's not like phenomenal. But in their last week, they were 3-1. The last 2 games, Jimmy Butler has scored 30 or more points, which has been a welcome insight to see. He's even said in post games that he's looking to be more aggressive at the start of games and stuff like that. So he looks really engaged. This last week, this team has really flipped the switch. When the season started out, it's like Tyler Hero was the only person doing anything. Now we got some
Right.
really good role players producing. Um, Pele Larson, our second round draft pick, has looked phenomenal so far to start out the season. Just doing everything the right way, not doing too much, staying within himself. We have a lot of role players that are doing their role and playing good. Haywood Highsmith is another guy. Jaime Jaquez is obviously another guy that does that. It's I hate to say it, it's been kind of fun to watch the Miami Heat games. I didn't know how this season was going to go, but I'm happy to see that it's starting to look like we're headed in the right direction. And I'm hoping it stays this way. That way we avoid the whole Jimmy Butler trade talks and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad to see some success this last week. So I had to shout him out. Anytime I get a chance to talk about the Miami Heat, I'm going to talk about them. So that was my team of the
Mhm.
week.
Nice.
All right, now for the NBA, I want to go over the top 3 teams in the East and the top 3 teams in the West, and I want to get your opinion on if they are contenders or pretenders. We'll go back and forth. We'll do one team at a time. You'll give your opinion. I'll give my opinion.
Okay.
We're going to start with Cleveland, who's at 17-1, number 1 in the East. Are they contenders or pretenders?
For me, that I think all these records, they look good on paper, but they can be very deceiving. Like I said, in the beginning of the season, they had like 3 weeks straight of just, no, not huge teams. So I think that if they were to go a 7 game series against like another team like Boston, they get killed. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think they're pretenders.
Um, I love their roster. I love some of their players. Donovan Mitchell. I'm a big Darius Garland guy, big Evan Mobley guy. But yeah, I
Hmm.
also agree that they're pretenders. You just look at the East; it's a stacked conference. There's a lot of veteran teams out there when you get in a playoff series that are going to have that experience edge over them. So yeah, I think they're pretenders as well. Next team, Boston, 15-3. Contenders or
I
pretenders?
I think that they're contenders. I think you can't ever like rule them out as painful as I know we both hate Boston, and that's just in our nature. But you can't deny how good they've been. Almost every night it seems like they're always getting close to like breaking a record in half. They're like how many threes they've thrown up in the half. So it's always something. But I think they will be contenders.
Yeah, Boston's always going to be a contender, at least with this
Yeah,
build. So yeah, that's all I'm going to really say about them. I'm not going to pump air
yeah.
in their tires too much here. Number 3 in the East, the team you just talked about, the Orlando Magic. They're 12-7. Are they contenders or pretenders?
Um, I think if you give them another year or two, they'll be up there in the contender spot. But right now, I think they're just too young. They really need that one guy if they can bring and just have that kind of veteran leadership to, kind of bring them through the playoffs. But right now, they're kind of in the same situation as Cleveland, and I can't stress that enough. They were so close last season, and battling it out. Every home game was a win for both of them. So. I think, like I said, if just give them a little bit of time, they'll be up there. But right now, they're pretenders.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that they're pretenders. Like, I mean, you just look in the East and it's like if the Knicks played the Magic, I picked the Knicks to win.
Yeah.
Even if the Heat played the Magic in a playoff series, like obviously regular
Yes.
season might be different, but if you're looking at a playoff
Yeah.
series, I'm picking the Heat over the Magic because of that experience. Like you said, they don't have that veteran guy on there.
Mhm.
Obviously the Celtics I'd have winning. I'd have Cleveland beating them if they did a
Yep.
rematch.
Yep.
I'd even have the Pacers beating them right now, even though the Pacers
Right.
have been off to a streaky start. So yeah,
Mhm.
there's just a lot of teams in the East. I have the Bucks beating them. It just comes down to the experience. I think. I think they still need to get that experience, and like you said, I would love to see them pick up a veteran that can help.
Mhm.
Be a good leader. They got KCP, Caldwell Pope,
Yeah.
but like it's not like he's like a huge veteran
Yeah.
to add.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that they're pretenders. Now slide over to the West. Golden State, when we made this, they were number 1. They just dropped down to number 2, but they are
Okay.
12-5. Are they contenders or pretenders?
Now, I think with a guy like Curry on your team, there's never going to be doubts. Well, there can be doubts, but I don't think you should have doubts. Um, he's gonna find ways to win, whether he puts the whole team on his back or has help with other guys on the team. But I think that they'll be contenders this year.
Yeah, you can't count out Steph Curry, so I'm gonna also go with contenders. You just can't. You can't do it.
No.
I can't do it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2, OKC, 13-4. they're number one in the West now. So contenders or pretenders?
I mean, yeah, I think they're contenders. I mean, they just have such a fun team to watch, and they get wins. Um,
Yeah.
they have guys who know how to play basketball the right way, and it's their they like I just can't stress enough that they win. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think they're contenders.
Yeah, I also agree contenders. I agree with everything you just said, so we're gonna keep it short and
I
simple
know.
there. Number 3 in the West is the Houston Rockets, 12-6. Are they contenders or pretenders?
Ah, I haven't watched them enough, but I don't. I'll be willing to say that they're pretenders. I don't know if they'll be able to hang on to that kind of top three spot in the West, but yeah. I mean, I just I don't have too much to put on them, so I'll say pretenders.
Yeah. Houston looks like a team that has a really bright future, but as far as contending for a championship, they're not there yet. I think they're pretenders as
Yeah.
well. Now, if they look to get like a good like an all-star caliber player, that
Mm-hmm.
can change things. I hate to say it, but with the Jimmy Butler stuff up in the air, I bet Houston's foaming at the mouth right now at a potential chance to trade for a guy like Jimmy Butler, and that could
Yeah.
make them a contender. But I think they're a player away or a player or two away. So yeah, I also have them as pretenders. So that pretty much wraps up the NBA. Now we're going to slide into college football. And real quick, just for college football, we're going to give our game of the week. So, Mason, what's your game of the week in college football?
I'm gonna go with Florida beating Ole Miss. It was just such a morale boost for everyone on Florida, all the fans. Beating Ole Miss at home. Montreal Johnson, Florida's running back, ran for 107 yards and a touchdown. And on defense, they was just that's what won them the game was their defense. Bryce Thornton, he had 12 total tackles, 2 interceptions, with one of them being the game winner. And it's just Jackson Dart did not look like he was completely there, and that defense was a huge reason why. So I'll have to give that to my game of the week.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to go with that game because I almost picked that game.
Yeah.
But I went with the 4 overtime thriller, Texas A&M versus Auburn. Auburn ended up
Mm,
winning the game 43-41. Like I said, 4 overtimes were played.
that's crazy.
Marquez Hunter, the running back for Auburn, had 28 carries for 130 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cam Coleman, the wide receiver, had 7 receptions for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Peyton Thorne, the quarterback, went 19 of 31 for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So crazy game.
Mm,
I didn't get to catch it live. I did watch the highlights after
yeah.
I picked them as my game of the weekend. It was an exciting game. 4 overtimes, like I said, you don't see that too often. So pretty crazy.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's my game of the week. And that will pretty much
Nice.
wrap up college football. So now we're going to slide into segment 3. And look, guys, it is Thanksgiving week. So, what better
Mm-hmm.
way to incorporate Thanksgiving than to go on to a GM's top 5 and give our top 5 things we have been most thankful for throughout our sporting years? So, Mason, go ahead, 5-1. What are you thankful for in the sports world?
Do you want to do 5-5, like, or just five
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
way
we can do
through?
that. We can do 5-5. You like that?
Five
Yeah,
five.
I like
Okay.
that.
All right. So my five, I'll be saying I'm thankful for the New York Knicks.
Mm.
Um, they've been so down and out for as long as I can remember growing up. I was never hugely into them, and I kind of feel guilty about it. Kind of getting back into basketball whenever they're getting good, and you know, it's refreshing to watch good basketball, and they're something that I enjoy watching. So yeah, they're my five.
Yeah, that's good. Number 5, I kind of put a silly one in here, but I am thankful for it in the grand scheme of things. It was something I wasn't excited about to begin with, but now I kind of like it. And that is the the addition of the pitch clock in MLB games. Um, Look, back in the day, it used to take like 4 hours to watch a baseball game, and I'll tell you, it's so much nicer now to be able to like watch a game in like 2 hours now. And it's just
Yeah,
sped up. It's a lot better. I was kind of like, oh, you can't change the game around. But after a
I
couple of
know, I
years of
know.
seeing it, I can say I'm thankful for the pitch clock. So yeah, that's my number 5. Just a silly little thing.
Nice. So by number four, I know it's got nothing to do with me personally, but it's another good thing to kind of see, and it's got to do with Thanksgiving because they play every Thanksgiving, and it's the Detroit Lions. I'm thankful for what they've been able to do over there, and it's from being an 0-16, just a couple years ago to now being 10-1, it's awesome to see. And the I watched all the Hard Knock stuff a couple years ago with Dan Campbell and kind of seeing what they put down as far as a foundation. It's just it's cool to see. So yeah, they're my four.
Yeah, they're America's team. I think a lot of people can
Yeah.
be thankful that they're back in relevancy. I know Tommy sure is.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, that's a good number four. My number four has everything to do with me, and that
Okay.
is whenever the Boston Celtics lose. That's what I'm thankful for.
Okay.
Whenever I'm having a rough day, if I look on
Uh,
ESPN and I see that Boston Celtics are losing, it puts a smile on my face. It makes my day a little bit better. Obviously, they don't do too much of that anymore, so you got to
yeah.
enjoy it and
Yeah.
be thankful for it when it happens. Because as a
Mm-hmm.
number one Boston Celtics hater on this planet, it always makes me happy and thankful whenever I see them lose. So that's my number four.
Nice. So my number three is a little spark of light in a world full of dark, and that's Dexter Lawrence.
Mm.
One of one of the just things that makes me watch the New York Giants still. If we manage to get rid of Dexter Lawrence, I don't know what I would do as a Giants fan because he is the rock in the New York Giants, and yeah, I'm so thankful for him, and yeah, that's my number three.
Yeah, sexy Dexy. I like it.
Yep.
Number three. Sorry, man. But the number three thing I'm thankful for is not being a New York sports fan. I don't know
Oh
how
my
you do it,
gosh!
man.
So you
I don't
didn't?
know. I don't know how you do it. I mean, okay, sure you've had like the history of being like successful
I was
franchises,
not
but man,
alive.
these last 10 to 20 years have been absolutely brutal for New York sports fans. I don't know how you do it every year having hope for like the Yankees. Oh, it's the Yankees year. And then it's not the Yankees year. Oh, the Giants might be good this year, and then they're terrible. Oh, the Knicks, they're starting to put together a super team, and then watch this year, they're not going to win anything. It's just, I'm
Oh
very
gosh,
thankful to not be a New York sports fan. I'm sorry, but it had to be said. I don't know how you do it.
that is
Kudos to
crazy.
you. That's my number
You
three.
said thankful for not being a New York fan. That's wild.
Sorry, man.
All right, so my number two has to go off of New York, and that's I'm thankful for Juan Soto. Maybe we might not have him this year, but man, it was a fun year to watch with him. He was the only reason, and I honestly admit it. He's one of the only. Okay, I'll say one of the only reasons we made it to the World Series. Just the man, he's got a clutch gene like I haven't seen before, or anybody. Just it's been insane, and I hope Yankees could find a way to bring him back with all the negotiations and money being thrown at him. But we'll see.
Yeah. We'll come back in a couple weeks and see how thankful you are for
I
Juan Soto
know,
after
I
this free
know, I
agency stuff
know.
goes down. But I like it. My number two, it's got to be the 2016 Chicago Cubs. I mean, obviously they won the World Series, and at the rate that the Chicago Cubs win a World Series, I don't know if I'll ever see that again in my lifetime. If history repeats itself and it's the same amount of weight, I definitely won't. So there's not a week that goes by where I don't think about the 2016 Chicago Cubs at least once. At least once. It's like you got Rizzo, Baez, obviously Chris Bryant, but you got the guys like Dexter Fowler, such a great leadoff hitter for us. And then you got Addison Russell. You got Ben Zobrist, the World Series MVP. You got David Ross, who hit that home run in Game 7. You got Aroldis Chapman. You got John Lester, John Lackey, Jake Arrieta, all these names, Carl Edwards Jr. Not a week goes by where I don't think about some of those guys. I know it sounds kind of sus, but I'll always be thankful for the 2016 Chicago Cubs. That'll always be such a great memory in my life, especially seeing my dad, who's been a Cubs fan his whole life, finally get to see the Cubs win a World Series. It was great. And I'll always be thankful for that. So that's my number two.
All right, there you go. So my number one is just it's an overall thing. I'm just thankful for sports in general. I feel like it's made, I know it's made us a lot closer as friends. All the stuff we've been to as far as games and just, even doing this with sports. It's one of those things where if we didn't have sports and sports weren't a thing, I'd have no idea like where I'd be as a person in life. And it's one of those things where like I can just rely on it, 24/7, whether it's watching a game, talking sports, just something like that. And I'm just grateful for all of it. So yeah, that's my one.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I wish my head was there because I agree with you, and that would have been my number one. But I went for a more a more specific thing, and that being the
72
Jimmy.
Dolphins.
Yeah, no, the Jimmy Butler Miami Heat era is the number one
There you
thing I'm thankful
go.
for. Now, let me explain. Obviously, it's been so fun to watch these last 5 Heat seasons. Some great underdog stories. We have the 8 seed team that made it all the way to the finals. You got the bubble year. Just so many great memories. But I will say there's so much that's come out of this Jimmy Butler Heat era. Being able to watch every Heat game with my mom, it's just a great bonding thing for us. We both talk about the Heat every single day. So I'm super thankful for that. And then think about it, man. All these trips to these games we've done, going to Miami, watching these cool games, getting these lifelong memories that we'll be able to tell our kids about. It's just
The
something that I'll
Jimmy
always
game
be
winner.
thankful for. The Jimmy game winner, the Julius Randle game winner.
Yeah.
Just all kinds of fun memories that, we'll be able to live out forever, going with Wyatt, going with Matt and Danny and all of them.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, that's without Jimmy Butler going to Miami. I don't know if any of that would have ever happened. So
That's
very
fair. That's
thankful
fair.
for it. So that's
Yep.
my number one thing I'm thankful for.
Cool.
Wow, that was a pretty good segment right there. I think that
That
really put
was a
me in the
good
spirit for
segment.
Thanksgiving. Um,
Yep.
all right, that pretty much
Can't
wraps
wait
up
to
the
watch my
episode.
Giants get killed now.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. Cooper Rush versus DeVito. That should be a fun one.
Sheesh, man.
All right, that pretty much wraps up the episode. So thank you guys for tuning into this week's episode of the GM Sports Report, where every play counts. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to be able to see our weekly episodes on all things sports. For additional content, check the description to see links to our Instagram and TikTok account. This is Grant and Mason signing off for now. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you guys.